All right, and joining us now, of course, two UCF Hall of Famers. They've been each in the UCF Athletics Hall of Fame. They were the 1-2 punch for UCF baseball, helping win the conference championship in 2000 and 2001. I speak of Jason Arnold and Justin Pope joining us here on the Black Eagle Banneret podcast. How you guys doing?
Doing good, man. Glad to be here. Appreciate you having us.
Yeah, likewise, doing well, and thank you guys for having us. This should be a lot of fun.
Let's start with you, Justin. Tell the audience what you've been up to now recently.
All right, so I guess I'll go from current to backwards. So right now I'm with the Miami Marlins, and my job title is pitching analyst. So it's kind of something that they created. Obviously in baseball now, analytics is becoming a big part of it. So it's something they created. So they reached out to me. I was with the Yankees for the previous 16 seasons, and long story short, a lot of members of the head of player development for the Marlins reached out to me and asked me if it was something I'd be interested in. And obviously I definitely was. And so long story short, decided to make the change, go over to the Marlins. And so that's where I am now. And obviously, like I said, been with the Yankees since really 2003 minus 1 year. I was with the Phillies in 2008 and then went back to the Yankees in 2009. So from 2003 until last year, I was with the Yankees playing, and then since 2010 coaching. And that's kind of, in a nutshell, where I am right now.
That's pretty cool. I mean, Jason, you've been obviously coaching in baseball as well, and tell us how that's been going since the last time we spoke.
Yeah, it's going good. Just finished sort of our second year at Eastern Florida. Got right at the halfway point there. Junior college over here in Melbourne, in my hometown where I grew up. Coached at some Division I schools and some high school coaching, and being back home, being back in the college game is great. I love college baseball, and getting to do it kind of from your hometown with a lot of friends and family nearby is really special. My kids are, of age where they really love baseball, my boys in particular, so they're at the field with me a lot, and it's a really neat setup for me and for our family for sure.
Do you guys remember, and I'll start with you, Jason, do you remember the first time you met Justin, when you met each other? I mean, Jason, obviously you came to UCF in 98. Justin, you came in 99, I believe. Do you guys remember when you guys met each other the first time there, whether it be before practice or whenever?
I remember, for sure.
I remember too.
Yeah, it was right away in the fall. I had been there for a year already, and had a good freshman year. And what I remember about it was the weight room. And immediately they put him in the weight room in my group. It was like, all right, this is the next guy. You guys better get used to each other. You're gonna work out together. And I remember he was a two-way guy when he got there. So he was middle infielder, pitcher, switch hitter. And I was like, who is this guy? And but we hit it off pretty easily and pretty quick. We were fast friends pretty early on there.
Justin, what stood out when you met Jason?
So I remember, Jason, you remember we played on Team Florida together, remember? Mm-hmm. In Oklahoma?
Yep.
I can't remember what year it was. It was, what year was that?
It was after my senior year, after your junior year. High school.
Yeah. So that's the first time that I remember meeting you. Meeting you like on the first day. We'll talk about college. Just remembering having a great freshman year. Just heard all kinds of great things about. Obviously, that's somebody that I wanted to look up to and follow, and you could tell he was already a a leader on the team, being a sophomore, and from the season that he already had, and he worked hard, extremely hard, and his actions, his actions spoke louder than I guess his words did, because he was such a hard worker.
Well, Jason, let's tell the people where you guys were playing your home games prior to 2001, because that was kind of a social media topic recently where some people weren't even aware that you guys weren't playing on campus.
Yeah, so my class in particular is the rare group of 6 or 8 of us that got to play in all 3 places. So we played at J. Bergman Field, over on the opposite side of campus as all athletics is now. We played there my freshman year. And then when Justin got there, we practiced there in the fall. But then we played at Tinker Field downtown next to the Citrus Bowl. So we would literally take a bus to every single home game. And we did that for 2 years. Justin's first 2 years and my middle 2 years. And then, opening up the new stadium in 2001 it was awesome anyway, but after what we had been going through, man, we thought it was like the greatest thing ever happened.
Were you guys aware that we were going to get a new stadium? What was that like, Justin, to play off campus busing and then eventually finally, in your last year in 2001, finally get to say, yeah, we're playing at home, and you got to pitch the first game ever at what was called then J. Bergman Field?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess I didn't really know any different. So, I mean, going off campus was kind of normal for me. But yeah, I mean, when I was there on my recruiting visit, they had talked about building a new stadium. They had told me it was going to get done a lot sooner than what it did. But yeah, so we knew it was in the works. It was just a matter of when it was going to get finished. But then, once it was finished and put on campus and we were able to play our games there, I mean, it was so much fun to be able to play on campus and have that, have that atmosphere and have that home field advantage, I guess you could say. I mean, it made it a lot of fun. And I guess, again, looking back, the first 2 years, you didn't know any better, but then you get there and you finally play on campus and you kind of realize what you're really missing out on.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm looking, from 99, 2000, you guys got to play at LSU. You had a home series with LSU and played at LSU 99 and then hosted them in 2000. You played teams as well. You played at Alabama. You got to play in some pretty cool places. What was your favorite road place you guys got to go visit? Starting with you, Justin. Which was your favorite road place visiting ballpark?
Well, it was not LSU, I'll tell you that much, because I did not get out of the second inning. So I remember my first I think I pitched the first game there, because I think we just had like a 2-game series. Yeah, pitched 2 games, had 2-game series. So I had the first game. First inning went well. Second inning, not so much. Gave up like 7 runs, maybe 1 out later, and then that was all she wrote. So not LSU. That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, looking back on it, I don't really know.
South Carolina was a cool atmosphere at the end.
Yeah. South Carolina was fun. In the regionals, Florida State was a lot of fun too in the regionals.
LSU's atmosphere was crazy. I mean, I have never been in an environment like that. That was wild. Yeah, they had like signs and markers, and they were doing research on you before you got there. That was the day before. That was way before cell phones and all that. And they would know everything about every guy. It was pretty cool to play there, but no, we didn't play well there. That's for sure.
Yeah. I'd probably agree with him. LSU was probably the most intense atmosphere, minus getting my tail handed. Yeah, exactly. But good experience for sure.
We won at Alabama on Friday night. I remember Casey Kennedy pitched a real good game there. That was good. The atmosphere, I mean, our last year, the atmosphere at Stetson with a top 10 matchup was pretty awesome, man. And going there and whooping them 3 games at their place, we're both ranked top 10. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was actually. That's actually the first when you first said it. That's actually the first thing that came to my mind was Stetson, just because of there's a lot of hype in-state rivalry. Both schools are close to each other, and then like Jason said, we went in there and whooped them and swept them, which was really nice.
Yeah, he swept them. We're going to get into that more in depth in a little bit. But 2000, you guys got to the NCAA tournament. It was the first time since '97 that the program had been back into the NCAA tournament. You got sent to Tallahassee, and you beat Florida State in that winner's bracket. It was a wild game. That was the Marshall McDougal-led Knowles two teams, if I recall correctly there. Jason, what do you remember about that? Because I think you closed in that game, if I recall. I could be wrong on that because you were kind of in the closer role at that point in 2000. But what was it like to be back to be in the NCAA tournament that first time in Tallahassee?
Yeah, Justin pitched that game, if I'm not mistaken, the one that we won. And he pitched great. It had to be seventh inning-ish when I came in. And facing their first rounder, John Ford Griffin, who I ended up being traded with a couple of times, played together in the minor leagues for a long time. And it was maybe we were up by 2, and it was probably a 10, 12, 14 pitch at bat, and he hit an opposite field grand slam off me. I had just come in the game, so I kind of blew the game for Justin. And then our team rallied back, and I threw a couple scoreless innings to finish the game. And actually, I think I got the win, but Justin's the one who pitched his butt off that game. And I mean, looking back on it now, it's like, me against John Ford Griffin and this awesome at bat. And, he got the best of me that day. And, the place was going crazy, regional atmosphere. They took the lead, and then we came back and won. So that was, that was awesome. That was a good day for sure.
Justin, what do you remember from that start and pitching in Tallahassee right there at Dick Hauser Stadium there in the regionals there?
Yeah, I just remember it being a lot of fun, and I just remember that I really wanted to pitch well to give us a chance to win, because then that would have put us up 2-0, and then we would have gone in on Sunday, kind of in the driver's seat, and whoever we would have played on that Sunday would have had to beat us twice. It ended up being Florida State. But, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's one of those occasions where it's like, okay, it's a big moment for you. Let's see how good you really are. I mean, I had a pretty good sophomore year. They had a pretty good team. Again, they had a first rounder in the lineup, a bunch of guys who could hit pretty well. So it was a challenge going into a hostile environment, and just seeing really what you could do and how you match up against a good team.
How much confidence do you all as a team got from that experience, even though you ended up, falling short in the regional final against Florida State? They were 7th seed in that tournament. But how much did that help you for the following season in 2001 and have the year that you guys ended up having?
Yeah, I think it helped us a lot going into their place on the road and, not just hanging in them, but beating them a game and made us understand that, all this hard work that we've been putting in and, winning our conference, and we could compete on the national level. And the amount of confidence that the team played with our last year, I've never been on a team like that. I've coached ever since then. And that team, we didn't just think we were good, we knew we were good. And every time we went out, we expected to win. And most of the time we did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You did. I mean, that's that. Did you feel the same way, Justin? I mean, going into that 2001 year?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing for me too, I feel like one of the things that hurt us that Sunday against Florida State and how they beat us twice is we just ran out of depth in arms. They had more depth than we did, and then so going into that 2001 season, we got a guy named Brad Busman from Georgia Tech who we thought could really help us out. And with Jason and myself, and then we get Busman coming along, we felt like we had a really good rotation, and this we could really match up well going into a regional with three really good arms. And then plus with the position players that we had, and he had a couple transfer come in, so we felt like we had a really good opportunity to do something special that year. And like Jason was saying, I mean, God, that year was so much fun. That was the most fun I've ever had playing baseball, going to the ballpark every day. We knew we were going to win every game. You know, I mean, even when we were down, it was just a matter of time when we were going to come back. I mean, all the guys, great group of guys, the coaches, you know, quality guys on the team. You know, so it was just a lot of fun. And I know someone asked me this a couple of weeks ago, if I could go back for 1 year, it would be 2001, hands down, no question. I mean, that year was just so much fun from the fall all the way through to the end of the regular season.
Yeah, I can remember in the fall, like almost every day after practice, driving to the other side of campus and like checking to see how the field was coming along. You'd be like, oh man, is it going to be ready? Is it going to be ready?
Yep.
And you just look and you're like, man, this is going to be awesome. And definitely my fondest baseball memories without question is that year too. And I answer that to everybody. I mean, all the cool things we got to do in pro ball and all that are great, and had some great experiences as a little kid, but nothing beats that year. Not even close.
Yeah, you know, and kind of like what Jason was saying too earlier about the college experience. I mean, the camaraderie on a college team, for me, it doesn't even compare to pro baseball, you know. I mean, it's just something special being around the guys in college. And I mean, you are out there competing your tail off every single day, and you're playing to win, you know. I mean, everyone's pulling for each other. I'm not saying that happening in pro ball, but obviously you get some guys who are out there for themselves too. But it seems like the teams who do well, everybody's pulling together, and that was what made that year so magical. Man, literally everybody was rooting for each other, and it was really fun.
And Jason, and we talked about this. This was the year you got moved into the starting role permanently, right? Like, because you've been used as a dominant closer and things. Just take us through the process there, what your role would be in 01, because Justin mentioned it earlier. You would be joining the rotation permanently there, and turns out formed that 1-2 punch with you guys, with you and Justin.
Yeah, it started. So after my junior year, after 2000, you know, everything was looking towards me going to the draft and not coming back for my senior year. That was kind of the move that everyone expected, myself included, and the coaching staff. And the draft happened, and you know, I got drafted, and just didn't work out like we expected or thought it was going to. And when it started getting later in the summer, and the idea of me possibly coming back to school for that last year started to become a reality, I met with Coach Bergman and Coach Cozart and Coach Frady, and sat down, and they said, you know, if you come back, you know, we think that you should be a starter. I said they thought that the only reason that the draft didn't go as well as it could have is because I didn't pitch enough, and really I didn't learn how to pitch until that last year. I really just kind of relied on my fastball and was able to throw the ball by guys most of the time in a closer role. And then my senior year, I was able to develop my off-speed pitches and throw a lot more innings. And, you know, they thought, and I agreed, that was my best opportunity personally, but then it also was certainly what was best for the team too, it seemed like. So I loved closing, if I'm being honest. That was the role that I preferred between all the roles I ever had in pro ball and in college and everything. The adrenaline of that role is unmatched, but if it wasn't for Justin and me and him getting to pitch together on the weekends, and a lot of times we pitched on the same day, which people don't realize, we would have double headers in conference, and me and him would pitch on the same day. But you'd get done at the park after 8-9 hours at the park, and we'd be leaving, and we would look at each other, and I would just be like, yeah, I feel bad for them after that. They went a whole double header, like, nah, not good. Teams would, almost every single conference team threw their ace on Sunday to avoid pitching against either one of us. And, you know, it's just stuff like that, man. Just those are the things you remember. And the memories and the fun that me and him had together on road trips, on the bus, and, you know, just competing with each other was the stuff that I'll never forget. And that was awesome.
How did you guys make each other better? I would imagine, right? Because, I mean, you probably fed off something what Jason did, right, Justin? And then Justin did things that made you better. And there was probably not like maybe a little internal competition of trying to bring the best out of you because, hey, you know that the other guy's going to throw a gem. You got to follow that.
Yeah, absolutely. You get that friendly competition going. I mean, whoever was going to throw, the first game, he was going to throw really well, and probably dominate. So you wanted to kind of set the tone for the next guy and try to put yourself in a situation where you pitch just as well as he did, if not better. But too, you pitched in that first game, that opening game, whatever. You want to set the tone for that weekend. You want to let these teams know, like, hey, we are as good as we are because of our pitching. And it's because of our top two guys, it's 1A, 1B, really, and it could have gone either way. But you just wanted to set the tone. And then, the guy coming in behind whoever got that opening day, our opening game of the series, he just picked up right where the other guy left off and buried the team, just put him in a hole and gave him no chance to win. And then they have to go into Sunday and just feel defeated. And then our offense would take over and crush them. So, but yeah, I mean, we're both competitive guys. We worked extremely hard in between our starts. We wanted to get better. We wanted to get drafted too. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to hide that either. I know Jason probably had a chip on her shoulder. What happened the year? So he wanted to go out and prove people wrong of how good he was. And I mean, he was good. I mean, his stuff was incredibly good. And then myself, I saw what happened. And again, I wanted to get drafted that year, and you hear some things, hear some rumors kind of being brought up, but then you're thinking, well, you never know what's going to happen. So you just wanted to go out there and give your best and leave everything on the field. And I know Jason did the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, Justin pitched the first game of every weekend, and it was awesome for me because of his preparation. The way he prepared between starts was something that I needed to learn better, not having started in a long time, and something that wasn't as natural for me as it was for him. And to watch him prepare and dominate, I mean, he lost on opening day, and that was it. The whole season. Imagine that. I mean, that's like half of a year. He didn't lose again the rest of his career. And for me to get to follow that every time and see his preparation, my strengths lied with, in the game, competitiveness, and like that stuff was, I wasn't going to let you beat me during the game, but I got to learn a lot from him between starts of what it looks like to prepare to be a starting pitcher. And then, following him, jeez, man, that was fun. Man, you get there in the game too, and you just feel like the guys are in a slump already. It's like, yeah, it was pretty cool for sure.
Yeah. Talk about the offense you guys have brought up. Talk about some of the players that you had not only defensively behind you, but and as well as catching, but offensively, because that was a stacked team. Jeremy Corella at shortstop stands out. Some of the guys that maybe didn't get the attention because a lot of the attention would go towards you guys the years you were having, but you had a stacked team behind you, Jason. Talk about the guys behind you and some of the guys that, for those that maybe didn't get a chance to see your team play.
Yeah. And all you have to do is pull up a UCF media guide online and check out the offensive numbers from the 2001 season because they're unbelievable. Chad Ernsberger, transferred from Ohio State. And like you said, Jeremy Corella transferred from Northwestern. And Jeremy Frost had a big year, and Mike Myers in the outfield. I mean, we were loaded at every single position. Mike Fox had a huge culminating year for his last year there. If you look back at the number, it was something ridiculous, the amount of guys off of that team that got drafted eventually or played professional baseball. I think it was over 20 on that team alone. Our backup catcher, George Cox, who really caught me most of the time, was one of the best receivers I ever had in my life. And, what did he play, Justin? He probably played 20 games all year, that year, something like that. And he was unbelievable. And a good friend of mine that grew up here locally. And Mike Myers, hit at the top of the lineup, and he just brought that swagger and that confidence, and the rest of the team really fed off of him offensively, I always thought. But, man, you can't – that whole team give the coach – being a coach now for so long, especially at the college level, is give that coaching staff a lot of credit for the group they put together for that season and that run where they knew they had a chance to be special, and we sure were. So I give a lot of credit to those guys that you don't think about it in the moment. You just think we're really good. But looking back, you're like, man, how'd you get all those guys? It's pretty cool.
Yep.
Justin, what do you remember about some of your teammates there offensively, and then your catcher as well? I mean, Justin talked about his catcher. You had your catcher.
Yeah, really along the same lines as what Jason was just saying. But Jeremy Frost, he caught me all the time, and we were just on the same page every game and locked in. And he just made it easy where you just had to go out there and compete and try to execute your pitches. And he took the thinking out of it, which as a pitcher, you want that to happen. You want to be able to go out there and just worry about executing your pitches, and that the catcher, he's putting down the right fingers and you're trusting him. So we had a good relationship, and we came in. He was a junior also, so we came in together as freshmen, and so we spent 3 years together, and we had a good relationship, and it just carried over onto the field as well.
What sticks out to me about that group, man, is the toughness of the guys. And that team was tough. You get guys like Jeremy Frost and George Cox and Jason Graham, and myself and Justin and Mike Myers. Corella and Chad Ernsberg. These are guys that are mentally tough, and kind of a group of kids that you really didn't want to mess around with. There wasn't a lot of pretty boy drama going on that team. There was a bunch of guys that were there to work and compete and prove that we're the best.
Yeah, that's a good point. Grinders, the guys on offense, they grinded out every AB. They never gave ABs away. Again, it was just only, getting late in the games, we were down. It was only a matter of time before guys would start coming through and we would take the lead. But, that's a great point. There was some serious toughness and grit on that team.
One of the series that certainly is well remembered is the when you guys swept Alabama at home. Alabama was 11th ranked. It was packed at Jay Berman. That was brought up this year when UCF went up to Auburn this year and swept Auburn early in the year, and that was the only times that a UCF baseball team has swept an SEC team ranked that high. What do you guys remember, Justin? Start with you. What do you remember about that Alabama series and that sweep? Because that was a signature moment there. I think that kind of put you guys on the map and skyrocketed from a ranking standpoint from that point on.
Yeah, I think we knew they were coming in. We had played them the year before, and me personally, I had some vengeance out for them for sure because I didn't pitch very well at their place. So I was like, this is revenge. I want revenge. But two, I think as a team, it was a good opportunity to see where we stood, how good we really were. And we definitely took care of the opportunity, took advantage of it for sure. But I just remember us just playing really well and, again, just taking advantage of a great opportunity.
Yeah, I think you said it best, Erica. That was the moment that I knew we were really good. After that weekend, we thought we were really good, and we practiced like we were really good. But after that weekend, it was like we're as good as anybody. We can beat anybody at any time. And I think that Justin can concur that at that time, and to some degree today still, I'll agree with that, but especially at that time, there was that UCF was the little brother feeling of, we're a group of guys that, we're Division I guys, but we weren't good enough to be SEC guys, and there was a little bit of that going on, and we wanted to make it clear that didn't matter. And we dominated them on the mound. All three games, especially the first two games, we dominated them on the mound. I don't even remember the amount of guys we punched out, but it was not what they were expecting, I'm sure. But what I remember the most is the dang throw from left field from Jason Graham. They had a guy trying to score from second to tie the game on a base hit to left with 2 outs in the ninth, and he threw a missile home and gunned him out at the plate to end the game, to sweep the series. I mean, that throw is like a signature moment of that season for me. That was, and I mean, neither one of us was playing. We had already pitched, so we're just in the dugout. And I can just remember going bananas after that play. And the game like that is pretty cool. So
yeah,
that was awesome. All the brooms in the stands. I remember that day. That was fun. Yeah.
Yes, I was in attendance. I was a student at the time. That was my first year at UCF, and that was kind of cool. I mean, that was fun at that time to go out to the stadium after a class during a midweek game and go and watch you guys play, or on the weekend like that Alabama one. I didn't have a broom, but I was one of the few that had that broom. And, that kind of jump-started. And Justin, for you, I mean, that your year, and Jason mentioned it earlier, you started the opener against FIU. I remember I was there. It was cold, windy. It was a lousy weather day, but that was it. You didn't lose another game the rest of the year, Justin. In fact, you at the time, you broke Roger Clemens' college baseball NCAA record for most innings pitched without giving up a run. You went 38 and a third innings pitched without giving up a run. Just tell me about how you got locked in that year and got into a zone. You would have that All-American year and get drafted high, but just take me through that year. What kind of locked in for you there that year?
Yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Locked in for sure. I don't even know if I can describe it, to be honest with you. I mean, it was just one of the things where everything clicked. I mean, my body, my arm, my mind, everything felt so good every game, maybe minus the first game because it was so cold and I wanted to do so well. And I remember in the fall, I went the entire fall without walking a hitter. And same thing, spring leading up to the first game when we had to have inter squads, I went the whole spring without walking a hitter. What do I do the very first hitter of the game of the season? I walked him. So I was pissed. I hated walking guys. I did not want to give in. And two, the first game, man, it was just one of those things where I think I put too much pressure on myself and I wanted to do so much. And I wanted to go out there and you wanted to punch out everybody and you wanted to open up the stadium in a grand style and, get a win and start your junior season off on a high note. And I didn't. And, but kind of going back to what Jason was saying is my preparation. I mean, probably my preparation and my routine is everything to me. I mean, in between starts, I felt like I worked my tail off, busted my butt in the weight room, got my running in, my bullpen, my side work, I feel like were quality. And I felt like, I mean, I think both of us, I felt like I was on a mission that year and I really wanted to do well. And again, you're going into the season and you have these expectations for yourself and you hear these grumblings of what could happen at the end of the season. So I just wanted to capitalize on that stuff and do the best that I could. And I'm such a competitor. I wanted to go out there and do the best I could. Obviously not only for myself, but for my team also, and give our team a chance to win. But it just seemed like everything was clicking every game. And I always felt well, but again, I contributed to the work I put in between outings, in between starts.
And Jason, like you mentioned, you were following Justin almost every game. You had to follow that, and you did. You almost matched him. I mean, your numbers are eerily similar. I mean, as I look back, Justin, your ERA was 1.68. Jason, you were 1.97. Justin, you had 158 strikeouts in 123 innings. Jason, you had 150 in 118 innings. Neither one of you walked many people. Jason, your whip was under 1, was 0.96. What was that like? I mean, clearly you guys are feeding off each other, but you're following Justin at that point where he's just on a roll and throwing zeros and you got to follow that.
It was awesome. Make no question, there's no debate about it. He made me good that year. Like, he was a huge part of my success that season. With all of his success, man, I didn't want to get left behind. That's how I felt. I was like, man, I got to keep up with this guy. And I'm telling you, there's days, I don't know how many, I'll have to look back at it. I think I had maybe 17 starts, probably 6 or 8 of them at least were on doubleheader days, maybe half of them. And the doubleheader days, those were the best, man. Usually the hitter has the advantage of the doubleheader day because the more pitching you see, you feel better by the end of the day. But I would go see a guy team in the middle of their lineups 0 for 3 with 2 punch outs and a weak ground ball. You're like, they're already demoralized by the time that I get out there. And then I had a different pitching style than Justin, so it wasn't like what I was going to do was the same as what he did earlier in the day or the night before. So they really couldn't make an adjustment on the fly. But it was pitching after him was a blast, man. It made the first game of the series a lot of fun for us, for me to watch, and then I could learn a lot about guys and how they tried to approach hitting off of him and what they were going to maybe do against me. But it was like you said, season that we'll never forget. I can't overstate the enjoyment that we had, I think, competing together and watching each other have success that year.
Mm-hmm.
You guys mentioned earlier, Justin, you mentioned it earlier. Obviously, you guys would steamroll from that Alabama series on. You would steamroll through the most of the season up until May. Big showdown in DeLane against Stetson. They were ranked 8th at the time. Had Lenny Bernardo, who was a hype pitcher, who was going to get drafted high. There was a lot of hype. But this was a hoopla. It's still to this day maybe the biggest UCF Stetson series of all time. You're both in the same conference at the same time. That might have been one of Pete Dunn's best teams he's ever had there. Take me through that weekend as you get ready to play Stetson in that showdown where that the conference championship, the pitcher of the year award, and everything's on the line in that series.
Yeah, again, pitching that Friday night game, you just wanted to go out there and, set the tone for the weekend and show these guys, like, we're serious. We're a good team. You guys aren't going to, you guys better become ready to play because we mean business. And so I just remember being a lot of hype for that game just because of Bernardo, who was obviously a great pitcher. And up until that point, he was having had a great career, but he was having a great career, great season up until that point. So again, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, challenge yourself, see how good you really are. You're facing a good team, facing a good pitcher. You think you're good, but show it. How good are you? And then at the same time, you want to go out there and, again, put your team in a good situation to get a win, but then also set the tone for the weekend.
And you did. I mean, I'm looking at the scores here. You crushed them 12-5 in that first game of that series. So offense just exploded there on May 5th, and then you beat them 7-3 and 9-8 on the doubleheader on the 6th. Jason, talk about that. How big was it to sweep Stetson, and then your bullpen, right? Because your bullpen comes into play in these games too, there, Jason. Because you would know about it being a closer yourself, and your bullpen closing the door. Because Stetson was desperate to get some wins at home there, and they were able to shut the door to complete the sweep.
Yeah, that was I can remember leading up to that series, towards the end of the year, I'm betting that we didn't even have a midweek game that week. Was a lot of hype in the newspaper and even on the news. I think we did an interview. Me and Justin did an interview with one of the local news stations, and there was a lot of local hype for that series. And maybe it was just the way that me and Justin prepared with that chip on our shoulder, but it just felt like they thought they were better than us. And whether they actually felt that or not, I think we told ourselves that anyway. And we kind of felt like we had a statement, to make. And Justin goes out there and dominates, and the offense really carried us the whole weekend. And we pitched well.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous that weekend.
Yeah.
But to your point about the bullpen, yeah, we had a lot of good arms on that team that were kind of unknowns going into the year and really stepped up. Zach Sutton turned into kind of our ace relief guy at the end of the games, and Von Sturzbach pitched a lot of big innings for us. We had Paul Lebrano, who was a freshman, that was his only year at UCF, but he pitched some good games for us. And Burt Clark, another freshman who played 4 years there at UCF. And we had Justin Serrato. I mean, these are all guys, most of them all played pro ball to some level later on. Was a deep group. Put it this way, we had Jason Graham, who started in the outfield, got drafted to be a pitcher and played professional baseball as a pitcher and never even pitched on that team. That's how good our pitching staff was, that we didn't even have to consider him as a pitcher, even though later on he played professionally as a pitcher. So, it's a special group, top to bottom, no doubt.
You go on to a following weekend, sweep Georgia State, win the regular season title. You go to Jacksonville in the conference tournament, and you win the championship. Jacksonville forced an if necessary game. It was a double elimination format back then. So you dropped the game to Jacksonville to force an if necessary game, but I felt like it kind of made you guys a lot angrier because you crushed them in the championship game, 11-2 to win the tournament. So you win the regular season in the tournament. What do you remember about that week in Jacksonville and winning that tournament? And where was the mindset at that time? Were you guys thinking about, hey, we could host, or did you know you couldn't host because of the stadium? What was the chatter around that time?
Yeah, I think there was definitely chatter about us hosting. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I was just talking, it was during the season, I was talking to one of my players about that experience at the conference tournament. And we won Justin's game, and then we won my game, and then we lost, like you said, to get to the if necessary game. And all I remember about that was after we lost, it was like we were so mad that we had to stay for another game. There was no doubt that we were going to win that game. It was just like, really? Like, you really think that you're going to beat us? We got to play another game. I can just remember that mentality of I wasn't nervous at all. Like, we were not going to win. And we went out there and smoked them that last game. Yeah, I don't think that the reality of us not being able to host was conveyed to us until after the fact. I don't think that – I don't know. Maybe, Justin, you remember more clearly, but I don't remember the coaching staff or anybody around us saying, oh, your stadium's not big enough, you're never going to host. I didn't think that was a thing. They were talking about bringing in temporary seating to add to the size of the stadium, and we knew that our RPI was going to be top 16, no doubt, and give us that opportunity. But, yeah, that was definitely a disappointing moment when we realized we earned the 1 seed but had to go.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure.
Justin, what do you remember from that week in Jacksonville, winning that tournament, winning the regular season and the tournament title, and kind of, hey, we're going to host, or we're not going to host, and finding out you weren't going to host?
So, real quick with the tournament, do you have the line score of the game I pitched in front of you, by any chance?
Let's see. I have the results of the tournament games.
South Carolina?
No, of the conference tournament.
Oh, conference tournament.
So, anyways, just from what I remember for that conference tournament, it's kind of on a selfish note, is I think I was taken out in the 6th inning or something like that, middle of the 6th, and one of the coaches came up to me. He wasn't our pitching coach. Wasn't the head coach either. I don't want to say his name, but he came up and was like, at the time, he was like, yeah, you're getting tired out there. You weren't pitching really well. I'm like, I struck out 11 dudes, man. What are you talking about? So then he came up to me after the game, and he goes, I didn't realize you had 11 strikeouts in 5 innings, whatever. I'm like, whatever. So that's what I remember about that conference tournament, about the game I pitched. But, I mean, kind of along the same lines as Jason, I mean, we were playing for a 1 seed, and hoping to host, because, again, we heard some rumblings about it. And then, when we got the word that we weren't hosting, we got fired up, and then we were a 1 seed going to South Carolina. I mean, that kind of pissed me off too a little bit. Sorry, I don't know if I can say it or not, but it kind of.
Feel free. I felt the same way. Everybody did.
So, I mean, just because it's great to be a 1 seed, but to go to South Carolina in that environment, I was like, man, what a slap in the face. So it was like, it was brutal, but it is what it is. So we just had to go handle business.
I'm glad you guys shared that, because I was wondering that, because I remember at the time I was perplexed by that. To have a team that was, you're good enough to be a 1 seed, but yet you're going to be travel, which is very rare. I don't even think that would happen in today's college baseball anymore, where if you're hosting, unless your facilities just aren't capable. And even then, I think Coastal Carolina, for example, they've hosted in new, minor league parks. UConn has hosted in minor league parks. So there is ways to host. I just never understood why we didn't host, except that I thought we got screwed. I don't know if it was financial motivated or brand motivated, but I kind of was perplexed myself because you guys certainly earned it. And I feel like in today's college baseball, you guys would have hosted, especially now with the renovations since.
No doubt about that. No doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it's such a huge, huge advantage, in my opinion, to have home field advantage, especially in college baseball. I mean, because you go to, when we went to South Carolina, even Florida State the year before, it's freaking draining. Like when we played at LSU and Alabama, those places, I mean, those fans, like Jason was saying earlier, those fans do their homework and they are all over you. And I mean, it's draining. You're trying to, as a pitcher, you're trying to get guys out, execute pitches, compete, but then yet you're trying to block out the noise of guys bringing things up of what you did early in the season or in your career, whatever it may be. So it would have been really nice to be able to pitch in front of your home crowd and have people rooting for you, not against you.
Yeah, I'd imagine. So you go to South Carolina, you're playing Princeton. The opening game, it's a Friday. I will never forget, I'm listening on the radio to Mark Daniels calling the game because back then there was no TV coverage of the regionals like they are now with ESPN and bases loaded. Like very few regionals, if at all, got televised, and if they did, it was usually local. So you're in South Carolina, you're playing Princeton, and it was a crazy game. A wild shootout breaks out, back and forth game. Princeton jumps out to a big lead. They were the 4th seed, a scrappy team from the Ivy League. We come back. Jason, your number gets called out of the old days, out of the bullpen to close this game out, which probably wasn't planned, I'm sure. But just take me through that game as we pull it out, 13-12 win over Princeton, but you had to be used to make sure you preserve the win and get to the winner's bracket.
Yeah, this is probably the story I tell the most to the guys, and try not to talk about my experiences too much with my players, but this is the one that sticks out the most to me for so many reasons. But yeah, we decided to go with our number 3 starter the first game, and he didn't pitch very well. And I think we went with 3 other relievers, guys that I have named, that all pitched in pro ball. Not like 3 back end guys, like 3 of our guys. And none of them could get these guys out. I mean, they looked like the 1927 Yankees against us. They were out there hitting everything. And I won't forget it. It was the 6th inning, and we had got down. It was like 11-5. And he looks up. Me and Justin are watching the game together, just on the rail, side by side. Like, is this really how it's going to end? Like, this is what's going to happen? And he looks over to me and he says, "Go get your cleats on." And I was like, "Come again?" And it was a mad dash, man. I had my inner closer days came back out, and I had my cleats on, and I was loose probably in 3 minutes. And I went in the game and finished the 6th inning, and ended up having, I think we won in 12. I think I threw 5 2/3 or 6 innings of relief. Something of that nature. And we were able to come back and get the win. So, I mean, it could have been worse. I could have threw 4 or 5 innings and we lost. But that was demoralizing to what the plan was for us for the rest of the weekend, for sure. Yeah. You're
right. It was a 12-inning game, so your 12-inning game. I mean, that was wild, Justin. What was it like watching it from the dugout, this game going as marathon game, and Jason has to be used to come in and relief in that game for you guys to pull it out, and your offense as well pulling it out?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's respect your opponent, right?
Yeah.
We felt like, I mean, even though it was Princeton, they were still a pretty good offensive team. But we still feel like we had a pretty good chance, pretty good opportunity to take care of business with who we had on the mound. And we were hoping that if we took care of business with who we had, I would leave Jay. And that would have put us in a really, really good situation, in a really good position. And I mean, if it were to come down to 2 games with Jason and myself on the mound, I'm betting on us every single time during those days. But, Yeah, I mean, it just sucked. Like, I'm like, oh my. First, I'm thinking, how are we gonna pull this game off? And then, Jason comes in. He takes care. He does what he needed to do. Took care of business. We come back and win. And then that led us into the next day, Saturday, where we played South Carolina. And I ended up throwing a complete game that game.
You had to know you were throwing a complete game when you woke up.
Before I went to bed, I knew I had to throw a complete game, and that was, really probably the only chance that we would have had to win is throwing a complete game. Which it happened, I mean, I ended up throwing a complete game. I think I threw like 149 pitches or something like that. But as a competitor, you want the ball. I mean, as a starter, you want to throw the first pitch and you want to throw that last pitch. Especially, I remember in that environment. I mean, it was so hostile. Again, as a competitor, you want to beat those guys and silence that crowd. But yeah, I mean, it was just like, okay, how are we going to find a way to pull it off this weekend and move on?
Well, and arguably, Justin, it's one of the most memorable performances of all time. Because I mean, I've spoken to Mark Daniels about it. I wrote about this about a couple of years ago when I did a story on some of the greatest UCF individual performances, and I had interviewed Mark about it. And I asked him, like, what baseball performances stand out to you? And he brought up your game against South Carolina because of the situation there was in. He mentioned that game at UCF's batter's box on the on-deck circle, the hitters were getting thrown with pennies and batteries from the South Carolina fans. The environment was insane, and he said that you battled and that you knew you weren't going to come out because of what happened the day before, because everybody basically got used in the game.
Yep.
And he said there was never a thought of going to the bullpen, and he threw a big pitch after big pitch as UCF held on to win that game. He said it's one of the best performances any UCF baseball player he has seen in all his years of broadcasting baseball. He said, Pope, your performance and pitch count cannot be forgotten considering the stakes of the game, the crowd, and the moment. He said it was incredible. I mean, what was that like in that environment? I mean, you're up against it. They're a tremendous team, as we would find out later. South Carolina would go all the way to the national championship series that year, and you're playing at their park. It's packed. SEC crowd. Mark described it. People are throwing stuff at the hitters, and you're able to overcome that and get maybe one of your signature wins of your career.
Yeah. So leading up to that game, I mean, I was pretty much sick to my stomach because I knew what I had to do. And I don't mean to be selfish or anything like that. I mean, I could not eat breakfast. Pretty much warming up when I was in the dugout getting ready to go out. I mean, I'm like, I'm about to throw up. So you go out there, you throw that first pitch, and then your nerves kind of calm down, and then at that point, it's just about competing. But yeah, I mean, that's really kind of what Mark said. I mean, that's really humbling what he said. I mean, that's really, really nice. But again, as a competitor, you're just going out there and competing your tail off and hoping that what you do is good enough to give your team a chance to win. Because, again, I knew what happened the day before. We didn't have much. We didn't have anything in our bullpen. And we knew we needed everything moving forward. And if we were lucky enough to win that game, chances are we probably were going to play South Carolina again. And the last thing we wanted was a repeat of the year before against Florida State. And, so again, I just battled. I tried to make every pitch like the game counted on it. And luckily I was able to, throw a complete game, and we were fortunate enough to come out on top.
You get to that regional final, and for those who may not be aware, by the way, it's worth noting, back then the aluminum bats were like out of control. It's not like it is now where the bats are so controlled, and yet you guys are dominating these hitters who are playing with basically aluminum bats where, like, you could throw the perfect pitch and they could still hit it out of the park. Not only that, you mentioned Florida State the year before, but even South Carolina, I've heard from people that it's like a bandbox, right? It's an offensive friendly one, right, Jason? Because the next day, the two games did turn into a shootout. The first game in particular, South Carolina won. You started the second game. You pitched well, but I've always maintained that had we not had to use you on Friday, we would have won on Sunday because you would have been fresher. Did Friday take its toll on you in that Sunday game when you pitched?
Yeah, without a question. I mean, I think I threw about 80 pitches on Friday, and to throw 80 pitches in 1 day rest, and then to pitch again another 6 innings, like that wouldn't even be done nowadays. Like guys get tired for doing that kind of stuff. That's not even a consideration now. And I'll go on record saying that when we were in that last game, we lost a close one, the first one on Sunday, and we pitched everything we had left. And we went into the visitors' locker room between games, and we're having sandwiches, and everyone's super quiet because nobody knows who on earth can pitch. Like it was pretty, everyone was pretty certain that I couldn't even throw, and nobody knew what was going to happen. And I can see the coaching staff wrestling with the idea of who's going to start. And I just go over to him and said, I'm starting. Like, what do you mean who's going to start? Like, I'm the guy. Like, give me the ball and I'm going to start. And that pitching performance that day for me, well, I think I gave up a couple runs over 5 or 6 innings. It wasn't my best performance, but the adrenaline of the early part of the game, I want to say, I think I struck out 7 or 8 out of the first 9 guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when fatigue starts to set in, they got a couple of hits and scored a couple runs, and it was a much lower scoring game. But I want, and I think I speak for Justin as well, that the last outing of my career and the last outing of his career, like that's how we want to be remembered. Like that's what I want people to remember about what we did and what we were able to accomplish at UCF was the gutsy performance that he gave when he knew no one else was coming behind him. And then the performance on Sunday to say, I don't have much left, but I'm still the guy for you. I mean, those are the things that I'm the most proud of at my time at UCF. And I hope that UCF fans or people that know us realize that last outing that we had, and we gave everything we had to that school. The draft was that next week. Everything was on the line for our careers personally. Him throwing 149 pitches was not the smartest professional move. I can tell you that right now. Me throwing 80 pitches and having 1 day rest and doing it again the next day, those are not smart moves for our health and our career. But we didn't even think about that. Like that wasn't even a consideration for us. It was, we loved UCF and we wanted to win for our school and for those guys in the locker room and our coaching staff. And I can tell you right now, knowing all the science and everything I know today about pitching, and if I was back in that situation again with the draft coming that next couple of days, I would do it all again. No question about it. I would do the same exact thing. Hopefully,
100%.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and again, it's worth pointing out, and that regional really was stacked. I mean, Princeton hit everybody in that regional. It wasn't just us. I mean, they beat Citadel, who was the 3 seed, 11-6. And I remember they pushed South Carolina to the limit. You almost had to play Princeton, which would have worked out probably better. But Princeton pushed them. It was an 11-7 game. I mean, you could argue that was a stacked regional. That Princeton was probably better than a 4 seed. They probably were seeded a 4 seed. Oh well, they're an Ivy League team, but they probably, if with the research today, would have probably been better than a 4 seed. And South Carolina was really good. They would go on to lose in the supers to Stanford, who ended up losing to Miami for the national title. And I think you guys would have beaten Stanford in the supers. In a weird way, I think the super regional format, and even today's format, where you didn't have to play double headers, you could have, the way the baseball regionals are set up today, where you actually have a day off or play each day. You don't play 2 games in on a regional final. You would play one on Sunday, then one Monday. Would have helped you guys today. I think you guys would have been set up perfectly in today's day and age to go that deeper run than it was back then with the setup.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, going into that, we knew where we were going. We knew the winner of that regional, where they were going. And, I mean, Jason and I, we talked about it. Like, we win this, we go to Stanford with he and I going, again, I would put us up against anybody in the country for a 1-2 punch. With the confidence that we had and with the confidence that our team had playing behind us. And then, kind of going back to Jason's point too, when he came in, when he started the second game, I mean, talk about, not that I didn't already have the utmost respect for him, but you want to talk about gaining respect from your peers, from throwing what he did on Friday and then coming back on Sunday. And from what I remember is he started that game off and I'm like, holy cow, we have a chance. And then he just ran out of gas because he threw, I mean, literally every single pitch that he threw that weekend was a stressful pitch. I mean, every pitch he threw was a stressful pitch, from the first pitch he threw against Princeton to the last pitch he threw against South Carolina on that Sunday. But, I mean, he's right, too. I mean, gosh, I mean, we loved UCF. Loved it. Still love it. And, I mean, that's a great point of your last game being remembered that way and putting everything on the line. And like he said, I would do it all over again. I would do 200 pitches if I had to. As a competitor, I'm not going to back down from anything from anybody at any time. You know, will it hurt me in the future? Who knows? It may have. I don't know. But at the time, as a competitor, you're going to give everything you have and leave everything you have on the field.
Yeah, no question about it. And it was amazing. You know, and that South Carolina team, a lot of them came back the next year. And that was the team that I was referring to earlier that played for the national title the year after that. So, I mean, you ran into some great teams back then. And, you know, I know, you know, it was tremendous. What was it like? A couple more questions. What was it like playing for Coach Bergman, and talk about the coaching staff that Coach Bergman had back then and kind of help you guys get there and then kind of play at your high level there, Justin? Starting with you, talk about the coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. Like I was saying earlier, I mean, just not only the whole team was fun to be around, but it was the coaching staff also. I mean, Coach Bergman, I mean, he knew when to keep things light and play around, but then he knew when to get serious. And then having Coach Cozart, Craig Cozart as a pitching coach, I mean, that guy is amazing. We love that guy. And for me, you know you have a good coach, good coaches, good leadership when you don't want to fail, because you don't want to let them down. And for me, that was how Coach Bergman and Coach Cozart were, is I did not want to let those guys down. Because, I mean, we built such a good relationship with them. And, I mean, they knew, again, they knew what to do on a daily basis. They knew when to play around, when to be serious, kind of when to put your arm around you. And, I mean, Coach Bergman, so I think it was after my second game I pitched of the season, he brought me into the office and was like, hey, listen, like, just relax. Just do your thing. You know, what you do is good enough. You don't need to try to do anything more than that. And it kind of relaxed me a little bit. And then after that, I kind of went on a roll. But you knew those guys always had your back, were always in your corner. And again, I mean, that's how you know you love the coaches that you play for, is when you are working hard because you do not want to let those guys down.
Jason, what do you take from that coaching staff that you probably still use today as part of your coaching?
Yeah, without question. It was a really good balance of guys. You know, Coach Bergman was the consummate manager and leader and overseer of the program, and always did a great job of in-game management, I felt like. And like Justin said, he always knew when to keep it light, and we needed that, and he always knew when to kick us in the butt because we needed that. You know, and then Coach Frady, you know, he deserves a lot of credit for that team because he was the primary recruiting guy for that team. Mm-hmm. And he was able to bring that group of guys together, which, man, we can't say enough about what he did there. And then Coach Cozart, man, he was a young coach at the time. And what he did with that pitching staff for us, and then for years later, you know, I was reading something today about coaching, and it made me think of him. And he coached with passion, and he coached with fire, and he had the knowledge that he needed and all that. But he coached with love, and that's what it's really all about. And he is still – he's probably my biggest mentor in my life today still. We talk about every week or two, all kinds of different stuff. And he is just a remarkable man. And when you are that, the coaching kind of takes care of itself. And I feel blessed to have been part of that, you know, learn from those guys. And then Coach Wolf was our volunteer coach that year. And, I see him now. He coaches some professional baseball, but he helps out at Seminole State. So I've got to see him the last couple of years, and we reminisce about the 2001 team every time we see each other. And it's just that portion of your life in that 1 year kind of memory capsule that, you really never will forget, ever. Justin said in the beginning, he's like, I'm not sure how much I remember. And it's funny to hear now we start talking about it, how much you actually remember.
Yeah.
It's like getting imprinted on you, That was a special, special year.
I was just trying to set myself up for not failing for the questions.
Parachuting me. Yeah. It's my Friday night guy.
But yeah,
pretty smart.
Yeah. I want to kind of piggyback that too a little bit. Yeah, I know I didn't mention Coach Freddie, but obviously Coach Freddie is instrumental in our careers and bringing us there. And again, like Jason was saying, putting together a team that gave us a really good chance and really good opportunity to do something special there. And one thing that I do really feel bad about is not going farther for Coach Bergman, because God, this guy, he's got such a good heart, and it's tough knowing the opportunity that we had and the potential that we had, and not taking advantage of it, because that was a great opportunity for us to do something really special for that man. And it's just unfortunate. But obviously in sports it happens. But hopefully one day that school can move on and get past that and do something special.
Yeah, I think they're heading the right direction there. I've been kind of back with Coach Lovelady there. Last thing, you both got inducted into the UCF Athletics Hall of Fame. Jason, you got in, I think, in 2006. Justin, I think you got in, 13? I think 13. It was the year 13. What did it mean? What did it mean to both of you to be inducted into your school's Athletics Hall of Fame? And what do you want fans to remember you guys and that team in particular, but you guys as well as individuals, that you want fans to remember you all by? And that honor of being in the Hall of Fame had to mean a lot to both of you. Starting with you, Justin.
Yeah, obviously, anytime you can get honored for what you have done on the field, it's pretty special. It's kind of hard to explain, really. It's such a good feeling, and knowing that all for me. I'm so big on hard work, and I feel like all the hard work that I put in really paid off. And for how much we love that school, and to be tied to that school for the rest of our lives. We're going to be long gone, and our name is still going to be up in that school. I can't even tell you how much that means to me. I'm sure to Jason also. But it's such a huge honor to be in a Hall of Fame. I can't even describe or explain it. And then, do you have a second question also?
Yeah, just what do you want fans to remember you by? That that didn't get. So what do you want people when they think Justin Pope? What do you want them to think about?
Probably like what Jason said, that last game that we pitched, we gave everything we had, but not just that last game. Every game that we pitched, every pitch that we threw, we gave everything that we had. And not even in the games. In between starts, it could be on a Wednesday in the middle of the season, and we're doing what we're doing to help put us in a good position, in a good situation to help the team win. So, not only for what we were doing in the game, but the work we were putting in between starts. And now we gave everything we had. Literally, we gave everything we had until that last pitch against both of us against South Carolina.
Okay, so what do you recall being inducted in the Hall of Fame, and how you want people to remember you?
That's you play as long as me and Justin were blessed to be able to play. You naturally kind of acquire a lot of neat awards and accomplishments over your time playing, and it's really not even close. Being inducted to the UCF Hall of Fame is the biggest and best honor that I've ever received anywhere. And the thing I'm most proudest of for my athletics career and performance is being inducted into the Hall of Fame. was super neat to be there. Justin was there the night that I got inducted, and the coaching staff was there, and just I was young at the time, getting inducted pretty early. I knew the magnitude of it. My brother was a student at UCF at the time, and now my two other brothers have also went to UCF. Just to think about the family legacy that started by me deciding to go to UCF. Now, our whole family is UCF. I met my wife at UCF. It's almost emotional, to think about that place. And, thanks to Coach Lovelady for getting us back involved and the alumni getting back involved. And I felt closer to that school and program the last 3 years than I have in the 10 years prior to that. And getting to go back, 5, 6, 8, 10 times a year now. And we just became UCF season ticket holders for football. And I had a birthday a couple of days ago, and my wife got me a big old flagpole and set up. We had a huge UCF flag flying in front of our house now. I mean, my kids are UCF through and through. There's just, at the moment, they're like, there's no way I'm going anywhere else. Like, the other schools don't even exist. It's horns down everywhere in our house. I mean, everything we do, I mean, the school has, you said how they remember me by, I don't know, just being a competitor, probably doing whatever it is that the team asked of me, and never giving in ever at any time. But, what the school has given me and given my family is far greater than what I was able to give that school. I mean, it's a place that I'll always love, and it has a special place for me for sure.
Yep. Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And Greg Lovelady, of course, has brought you a lot of you guys back, which has been awesome. I know he's excited about that, and I'm excited to get a chance to talk to you guys and talk about memory lane here a little bit. Because, like I said, I was a student at that time, and that was when I got hooked on UCF baseball. And I'm not alone. I know there was a lot of people that went to the stadium there that first year and watched you guys play, and I think you guys gained a lot of fans for the program that still come to games today now at John Giuliano Park. So a lot of people owe you guys a thank you as well for what you guys did for the program and for the school as well, and the great memories you guys have brought us. So I really appreciate you guys sharing some of the great stories from your time here at UCF, because I think a lot of people certainly appreciate that. And I know, Jason, you still believe that's the best team that baseball program has had to this point.
Well, proof's in the pudding, yeah. I don't think it's really I don't know what Justin said when he went and talked to the team, but when I talked to the team this fall, my message to them was, hey, yeah, I'm proud to have been part of that team, and I really do believe we're the best team to ever play there, but I'm getting kind of tired of saying that. Like, I'm ready for some team to step up and be better than us. Not sure when that'll happen, but I feel pretty confident that day is coming. They had a heck of a team this year. It's disappointing that they didn't get to see how that ended up playing out. But yeah, I think so, man. And of course, I wouldn't say I'm unbiased, but you win 51 games, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Justin, you talk trash to Greg Lovelady about that? Hey, we had the best team. Go ahead and try to top us there a little bit there. Or you kind of shy away from that because Greg might bring up the fact he won the national title that year at Miami in 2001.
Only because they didn't play us, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He knows what was going to happen if he brought that up with, Jason and I coming at him. But no, I mean, I didn't really bring that up too much. I just kind of said the same thing of just taking pride in being at UCF and knowing what was before you, and just time to build this thing, and move forward and grow into a powerhouse. And the atmosphere for sure was much different than what I have seen in the past. And even talking to some guys, some former players that played for other coaches, you could just tell the atmosphere was much better, and it's going in the right direction for sure.
Yeah. I'll echo that, and to say the neatest thing about going, I've spoken to the team a couple of times now, and the neatest thing for me is after I speak to the team, man, I just turned 41. These guys are in their primes at 20, 21 years old. Who is this guy? They probably don't look at UCF record books. Maybe some of them do. They may have heard my name or Justin's name, but they don't really know us. And to see the amount of attention and respect that they gave me while I was talking and after I finished and coming up and thanking me for being there, and that makes me proud of our alma mater's head coach and the direction and the leadership that's there right now. That makes me excited for the future, and what he's doing to help not only the program to win games, but turn those kids into quality young men, which is really the most important.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, guys, appreciate you coming on. That's Jason Arnold, Justin Pope, two UCF Athletic Hall of Famers, two of the best of all time, to wear playing the baseball diamond there at UCF. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time and spending some time with us and telling some of the great stories from those years, because that was some of my favorite years following UCF athletics, and you guys were a big part of that. And this has been a joy for me, and I sure is for a lot of people in the audience listening that followed you guys closely. Thank you so much for doing this, and hopefully we'll see you guys in person. Hey, maybe next year, maybe 20-year anniversary of the 01 team. Maybe we could do something in person there.
I'll tell Lovelady, I think that's a great idea.
There you go.
That is a
Thanks for
great
having
idea.
us on, man. Thank you so much.
That is a great idea. Yeah, thanks for having us on. I think we do need to have a 20-year anniversary to really rub it in their face to show them what the best team's all about.
Maybe when Stetson's in town, that'd be good.
Yes.
There you go. Make it work, guys. All right, you take care there.
Yeah, thanks so much, Eric. Take care. See you guys.